China.
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Jesus, I say that. Jesus, I say that.
He looks good, and he looks hard. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. China?
China. I have to have my China. People from China, they love me.
This is from 12 Rules for Life.
Well, it's good to see all you folks once again. Looks like it's a little time for Doom. Or something like that. We certainly have a lot to cover today. I'll say it's Doom for me. Well, I guess it's time for us to move forward. No tarrying here. Straight into the abyss. Alright, folks. Well, I don't have anything prepared to lift your spirits at the beginning today, unfortunately. Been dealing with too much stuff. So let's get straight into it. Here in America, where Associated Press reports that New York police officer was shot and killed during a traffic stop. Whoa, the volume's super low there. Okay, fix that. A New York City police officer was shot and killed, Mayor Eric Adams said. Whoopsies, I have no body. And you all have a bunch of free support right now. Officer Jonathan Tiller was shot Monday during a traffic stop in Queens. Police say Diller's partner shot one person who was taken to a hospital.
It is the good.
We don't need to listen to Eric Adams at all. In any way possible. Like, literally in any way. But now that I'm thinking about it, how many likes do we have right now? 14. 14 already? That's fast. We're 11 minutes into the stream. You almost do have Cisco right now. If I'm being perfectly honest. You're super close. I almost want to give it to you, but that would be cheating. And we can't have that. Wait, what happened to Angela Lansbury? She's missing. Did I move her file? Oh no. It's a disaster. Okay. Anyways, as usual, another reported gun death and cash casualty, but apparently the individual who shot the police officer is now in the hospital. So it's 2 people already. Once per stream, we just count up the gun violence in America. And I'm not really here to, what do you call it? Let's forget what I'm not here to do. Let's talk about what I am here to do. I'm here to point the fact out that guns in America are a massive problem, and we just got to get them out of people's hands. It doesn't really seem to matter who has them, according to stuff, because even that doesn't really encompass all that much, as it turns out. And it leads to things like this every day, us seeing people die by guns in 2024. Okay, but that's it on gun violence for now, at least in the case of America. What's next? Okay, this next one is NBC Bay Area from 19 hours ago. You'll notice that the way they try and frame this is pretty weak sauce, but this is entitled "Minimum Wage Increase in California Could Lead to Layoffs." Oh no.
Fast food workers are about to get a pay raise. Next week, the minimum wage goes up from $16 an hour to $20 an hour. But the restaurant operators say a higher wage could mean fewer workers. Here's NBC's Robert Honda.
Amir Samadi runs a popular round-table pizza shop in San Jose near the Oak Ridge Shopping Center. He considers himself a good employer through good times and bad. For example, Amir points out he did not lay off any workers during the pandemic or cut their hours. But now, as California gets ready to up the minimum...
See, now what I like about NBC is that they're very fair. So instead of going to, I don't know, say the majority of businesses, which are major corporations, they go to this one guy who happens to own his own pizza shop and ask him how he's feeling about stuff. It's very balanced and fair, and they certainly take into account all the sort of important stuff here.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills! Wage for fast food workers from $16 to $20. Amir is not sure if he can afford that change.
As an owner or as an employer, you have to have like coverage to pay them. If you cannot, you have to shut your door, or they're gonna lose the hours. Anyway, it's gonna be lose for both sides, either employer or employee.
Some have suggested the wage hike could be covered by raising prices, but Amir says passing the cost to customers is not as simple as it might sound.
You cannot just out of nowhere change the prices so people are gonna go elsewhere. There's a lot of options out there.
The new minimum wage applies only to designated fast food employees who work for places that sell food and drinks for immediate consumption, and applies to the bigger...
Look, from that one shot. Hold on, go fucking back here. Look at this. In this one shot, you can see blam, blam, blam. You know, 3 different, like, pretty corporate-looking places. Jack in the Box, Subway, and Denny's. I think, is that Taco Bell, too, I can see in the distance? Hard to tell. Hard to say for sure. But this is the point. Yeah, one pizza place equals all employers. Exactly. No reason for, I don't know, employers making money, and more specifically, massive corporations such as these ones that we're looking at right now, to, I don't know, say cut CEO pay, not worry as much about profits, because they've been making record ones every single year for years now.
And applies to the chains with at least 60 establishments nationwide. The South Bay Labor Council and many other labor organizations supported the change, calling it a job creator, not a job killer.
I think the data tells us that small businesses in particular save money by investing in their employees. You have to do less spending on training, less spending on advertising, and when someone just has one job, they're more focused on that job.
Some fast food workers we talked to, who asked not to appear on camera, say they worry about the impact on their employer, but also say they need the money to keep up with the Bay Area's cost of living. Customers we talked to at the roundtable say they sympathize with all sides: employers, employees, and customers.
Everywhere, everything's getting higher, so people need to make more money for that.
I don't know, you sound soft right now, Pitchforks. You can't... as a grown man, you don't want to live with 6 roommates in the Bay Area? I don't understand. What's the complaint here exactly? You're telling me that people might want to live in their own place off of the money that they make? No. No, that's crazy. I'm pretty sure that's not what you're trying to say. McDonald's already starts at $22 an hour in San Jose. Is that true? I didn't even realize that one. Yeah. It's a good fact. It's a good fact to throw out there. But, it's actually something that I thought I had saved. Apparently I did not. Where did I put it? Well, I've lost the actual... Somehow I've managed to, shockingly, lose the actual document that this refers to. However, I recently saw that, CEO pay to taxes paid is at an all-time high. Like, the ratio of amount of money being paid to CEOs to the amount of money being paid in federal taxes by these companies is at an all-time high. For instance, Elon Musk recently paid himself $2.5 billion, and Tesla paid negative $1 million in federal income taxes. That's right. The federal government gave Tesla $1 million. As a refund. I don't know if any of you have ever gotten a tax refund that big, but I certainly haven't. Okay, what's next? Alright, moving away from that, but still to corporate responsibility, I suppose. This is a little bit more on the Boeing situation, as the CEO of Boeing recently stepped down. This is from Global News.
The guest of honor, the Queen of the Skies.
The 747, known as the Queen of the Skies, was a hot commodity for Boeing in the 1990s. Its peak popularity coincided with a shift in mindset at Boeing, according to analysts, where the plane maker's bottom line became top priority.
The philosophy that I think has been enforced in the last 25 years has been we should think about airplanes just like you might think about a consumer product or selling insurance or whatever, that we run this business like any other business.
Boeing's leadership has, since that shift, been dominated by a series of corporate men, increasingly focused on shareholder value and maximizing profit.
Clearly, there was problems with quality. There was a problem that is causing their reputation around the world to be in trouble. So this is something they should have dealt with a while ago.
CEO Dave Calhoun, who's been part of Boeing's leadership team for 15 years, is stepping down at the end of the year.
Let's not avoid the call for action. Let's not avoid the changes that we have to make in our factory. Let's not avoid the need to slow down a bit and let the supply chain catch up.
Calhoun took over the top job after the company ousted previous CEO Dennis Muhlenberg for his handling of the aftermath of 2 deadly 737 MAX crashes that claimed nearly 350 lives. Whether
Boeing has been doing a real bad job of this stuff of late. In fact, for the last nearly 2 decades, they've completely mismanaged their company in pursuit of profits. We've already talked about how much money in stock buybacks they issued rather than upping safety standards or paying workers more, and it's an absolute travesty. You know, Boeing used to be respected around the world, and they probably deserved it for a little bit of time. They used to have good worker benefits and stuff like that, and I've heard they've been gutting those along with doing all of this other terrible stuff for humanity.
can enact the lasting cultural change U.S. federal authorities are calling for depends on who takes over. This analyst says Boeing needs a strong leader who can steer the company back to a safety-first mindset.
And one of the things that we have yet to see is whether Calhoun's replacement will be more from the engineering side or more from the financial management side.
Ann Gaviola, Global News, Toronto.
Okay. I'm going to watch another one real quick, analyzing this a little bit more closely. This one's from BBC, entitled Boeing Boss Leaves Firm Faces Safety Crisis.
First up, let's start with Boeing. All change. The plane maker has revealed that its chief executive, David Calhoun, will leave by the end of this year.
You'll only fly on planes that are built by hot women? Is that what you're saying, Vincent Morales? Interesting. I don't know how you could possibly enforce and or be sure of any of that.
The company also said the boss of its commercial airlines division will retire immediately, while its chairman will not stand for re-election. The firm, of course, is under pressure after a door panel on a plane blew out in mid-air in January. No one was injured during the incident, but the firm's safety record has come under renewed scrutiny. Well, let's get more on this now from John Grant, who's an independent aviation analyst. Good afternoon to you. Firstly, change at the top does often follow this sort of thing, doesn't it? But do you think this will address the underlying issues here regarding safety?
It's John Strickland, by the way, rather than John Grant.
Oh, apologies, John. My apologies. I've badly misinformed there. But there has been these underlying issues, hasn't there, with the technical side of things, safety-wise. Yeah, do you feel like this will convince people?
I think this marks a fundamental change, and of course we're talking about a time scale, the head of Boeing Commercial Airplanes.
Okay. Wait, what? Airlines are also tied up. Yeah. No, for sure. Because they've bought a bunch of these planes.
Immediately, the CEO is still in post till the end of the year. I'm not normally a person who would flippantly say, regime change is necessary, but I think this is very, very symbolic and critical to Boeing's rehabilitation to go back to a position of where it was, a preeminent industry, manufacturing.
This guy isn't making a lot of sense to me right now.
We've seen so much going on.
Like, they had two CEOs in a row who did the exact same things, which is just being CEOs of a major corporation in the 21st century. So they gutted safety, any cost that they could possibly find, they gutted. Okay? It's a problem with late-stage capitalism and with the way the corporations are run these days. They have zero accountability to anybody. They treat people like cattle, as if somehow safety while rocketing through the skies at hundreds of miles an hour isn't an important issue. And changing CEOs isn't the problem. It's changing corporate culture across the board. Okay. I just watched that to enrage myself slightly. Before moving on to this. Another, I guess what you might call infrastructure-related situation. This is, I wouldn't call it necessarily a deep dive, but we're gonna dive it. It's gonna be a medium dive, into this Baltimore bridge collapse, which just happened this morning.
Okay, so the breaking news that we're hearing is coming out of the U.S. In the U.S. city of Baltimore, a major bridge has collapsed into the water after being struck by a cargo ship. This is the moment. The vessel caught fire on impact, and the vehicles that are seen on the bridge sank into the water, as did the bridge. Baltimore police say that workers might be in the water right now. It's unclear how many people have been injured.
Yeah, I've got like a bunch of videos for this, so we're just going to keep on pushing forward through them. This one, I believe, is from the AP.
We know the Key Bridge. I've ridden over the Key Bridge countless times. So many of us know the Key Bridge because it is our normal commute. This is a place that is a normal commute route for over 30,000 Marylanders every single day. And so to hear the words that the Key Bridge has collapsed it's shocking and heartbreaking. And immediately, the first thought and the first ideas go back to what happened to the people, what was the impact on human life. But for every single one of us who are Marylanders, the words that the Key Bridge...
The picture is crazy. The shit is insane. Look at it. The entire bridge is like folded in on itself. And I know some of that's from the weight of it collapsing. But like, look what happened to the containers on it too. Some of them just got shredded. I mean, the front side of this ship is like gone. You can see it like right here. It's kind of torn off.
Is gone. It still shakes us, because for 47 years, that's all we've known. And so this is not just unprecedented from what we're seeing and what we're looking at today. It's heartbreaking.
Governor, can you confirm that the crew on the ship alerted authorities that it lost propulsion and was in trouble?
We can confirm that the crew notified authorities of a power issue. Yes.
And that they had lost power on the ship.
Yes.
The crew that was out there working was basically repairing potholes.
You heard Voldemort. I did not. I was not listening for Voldemort, if I'm being honest. How many did they eventually save? From my understanding, just one.
So you understand that had nothing to do with a structural issue at all in the facility. At this time, one person has been rescued, and so far, and our efforts continue in terms of that. Engineers are on site right now, determining both some of the structural issues, obviously some of the debris field, and we'll start to work that.
Okay, we're just gonna keep pushing forward through these videos because I got like a bunch of these. This next one is from this is also the Associated Press, but this next one is better footage of like the moment that this ship collided with the bridge. God damn. And you can see the entire system, like the truss system of part of the bridge, all just collapsed together because it's all connected. It was 100,000 tons? That's a lot. Yeah. Actually, let's go watch this next one.
Hey there, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on CBS News. I'm Lilia Luciano. We are following breaking news. Rescue workers continue searching for survivors from that
You're 2 away from Captain Cisco at this point. Just gonna mention that.
massive bridge collapse in Baltimore. A large container ship hit a column of the bridge just after 1:30 Eastern this morning, and a massive portion of the bridge fell into the water, along with several vehicles. A law enforcement official has confirmed the ship, quote, lost propulsion before hitting the bridge. 2 people have been rescued so far from the water. 1 is in critical condition. 6 people are still not accounted for. The governor of Maryland has declared a state of emergency.
We know the Key Bridge. I've ridden over the Key Bridge countless times. So
we already watched this.
In Baltimore right now, Ramy, let's talk about the atmosphere right now in Baltimore. Of course, the main concern authorities are saying is in rescuing those 7 people who remain missing. But just looking at the bridge and just looking at the map, this is an area that I imagine is going to require a huge shift in people's everyday commute.
Yes, absolutely, Lydia. The Francis Scott Key Bridge has been an iconic fixture of Baltimore for nearly the past 50 years. There's shock, there's disbelief that this bridge now is basically just gone. I've been speaking to some Baltimore residents, and they said that it was a gut punch to something that they've known every single day of their lives. As we heard from the governor just now, People drive this bridge as a normal part of life. Another resident said that they thought it was a majestic bridge that they appreciate as they drive over it, something that they can see the surrounding wilderness, that they can appreciate the surrounding waters and the Port of Baltimore with it just nearby. But now the fact that this doesn't exist and the idea that this may not be replaced in the near future. It took about 5 years for the first bridge to be commissioned and then also to be finally built. If it takes that long, it will have massive repercussions on a day-to-day level, as you just talked about, but also
This is going to have massive repercussions, not just on human lives, but on the environment. Okay, first off, forget the rebuilding of the bridge. Let's start off with commuting. People that are going to have to commute now. I looked at a map, and I should have prepared this. I wasn't expecting to actually comment on this, but I decided to. But I looked at a map of it, and this bridge cuts off an incredible amount of distance for people to drive. Okay, I think it's probably going to literally double the distance for an entire group of commuters. And from what I understand, it's something like 50,000 people use that bridge on the regular, every single day for commuting to work. So that's bad. But then the rebuilding of the bridge is going to be insane. It's going to cost well over $1 billion to rebuild, and a crazy amount of resources as well.
economically for the Port of Baltimore as well as for the country and really for ships going around the world.
Yeah, I imagine that there is so much that goes through there. Now, one thing that we learned from authorities is that there was a mayday call from the ship that was made before it struck the bridge. I imagine that must have saved a lot of lives. Unfortunately, this happened at 1:30 a.m., not during rush hour. But what else do we know about what happened before the collapse?
Sure. So from what we have been told, the Dali cargo vessel left the Port of Baltimore, and shortly thereafter, it was only a few minutes into its journey, it radioed the Port of Baltimore and said that there was some kind of problem, some kind of malfunction, and they had been starting to lose power. And we even see in the live cam footage from that time, just around 1:30 a.m. in the morning, that they started to lose power. The power went out, power went back on, power went out again. And then at some point, you see this big fluff, this big cloud of black smoke. That is indicative that they tried to steer the vessel somehow to hopefully make it avoid the bridge. We now know that didn't happen, and shortly thereafter we saw that massive shock from that explosion, concrete coming off of the pylon, water splashing off of the ship, and then now we know that the Francis Scott Key Bridge no longer exists.
My gosh, Raymond.
Yeah, and so that bridge has been there for 50 years, and according to my research, in today's dollars, after inflation, would cost approximately $787 million to rebuild. And I think AC made a good point here somewhere about the fact that it's going to block the Chesapeake Bay, or at least a great deal of it. I don't know if it's the whole bay, but certainly you would think most of it, as that was probably the deepest portion of the bay.
So I know you have a lot of reporting ahead, and we'll be back with you in some time. Let's bring in, thank you so much for your reporting. Let's bring in now Roberto Leon. He is a structural professor.
For being at a tech college, this guy has got the worst background, the worst green screen I've ever seen.
At Virginia Tech to break down how this all works. Roberto, what sort of precautions are put in place to prevent something like this from happening? It seems from the images like it was just this one hit and then the whole thing collapses. But I imagine when it comes to the engineering of it, there's ways to prevent that.
Yes, thank you for having me, first of all. You're right. We design modern bridges for what we call extreme events. And one of those extreme events is what we call a vessel collision, which is what happened today. Unfortunately, these are for the more modern bridges. And so this bridge did not have very much protection. So I was noticing earlier today, just looking through ongoing projects, that Maryland is doing a retrofit for one of their big bridges, the Memorial Bridge, and it's at a cost of $100 million or thereabouts to just put the protection that is needed for a bridge of this size. The other thing to think about is that this is just a very large ship with heavily loaded, and so with a lot of momentum, and it's very hard to steer even in the best of circumstances. And so this is a very unfortunate, unusual accident. The bridge is was designed for some lateral loads, but those were mostly the wind loads and perhaps to some level earthquake loads, or those, although the
Okay. I think that's about all I wanted to see. I thought it was interesting to note that they hadn't actually spent the money to put in protection on this bridge, which I assume has to do with some sort of reinforcement or barriers around it. I honestly don't know to what exactly that entails. But I guess it was deemed too expensive to do. Seems now like it would have been a good idea. But, hindsight being what it is. Oh, good to see all of you folks showing up. Alright. We're going to move on to a speech by Pete Buttigieg that he gave on the rebuilding of this bridge from 4 hours ago. This is the AP.
At least 6 people remain unaccounted for.
Actually, no, we're going to watch this one first. I forgot about this one. Sorry. No, let's do this first.
At least 6 people remain unaccounted for in the aftermath of that devastating bridge collapse in Baltimore. A cargo ship lost power and struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge early this morning, sending large pieces of the structure plunging into the water, along with at least 8 people and several vehicles. The video is still just so unreal to watch. 2 people were pulled from the water. Search, rescue, and recovery efforts are, though, still ongoing at this hour.
Okay,
whoever words that
whoever was asking in chat, it was 2. You're right, they did get 2. The last, the video that I had watched, but I'd watched a bunch of these videos, they only had pulled 1 at that point out of the water, and so that was the information I was going on. This was a late edition video. I had watched it, but apparently I didn't retain the information very well. So yeah, you were right. I was wrong.
The Key Bridge has collapsed.
Write that down.
It's shocking, and heartbreaking.
The sight of a massive cargo ship twisted in the remains of this major Baltimore travel artery, surreal. This hour, local, state, and federal emergency response teams have been working the scene by air, by boat, and using dive teams looking for vehicles and victims. For now, preliminary reports point to an accident, say investigators.
There is no specific or credible information to suggest that there are ties to terrorism in this incident.
A mayday call from the ship's crew just before 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time gave officials critical minutes to warn motorists heading toward the bridge.
Many of the vehicles were stopped before they got onto the bridge, which saved lives in a very, very heroic way.
That said, I do believe there were some vehicles on the bridge, and I have heard reports of there being some vehicles on the bridge that were of construction crew that were doing some kind of a maintenance on it. Not structural maintenance, but just I think normal sort of maintenance stuff, and I believe most of them are still missing.
Reports from the Coast Guard indicate that a harbor pilot and assistant were on board.
Maritime and Port Authority officials in Singapore, where the cargo ship is registered, confirmed that the vessel, Dali, temporarily lost propulsion and dropped anchor as an emergency measure prior to the crash. The vessel's lights were seen flickering and then going out completely before it hit one of the bridge's key support pillars. While assessing the human toll remains the priority for response agencies, there is also a devastating impact to the region's economy.
We're one of 4 deep water ports that can handle the larger Panamax ships. We have a cruise terminal. So, getting through this is going to be really hard.
Well, President Biden said today he wants the federal government to bear the full cost of rebuilding the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and he wants that to begin as soon as humanly possible. Now, no surprise, this bridge collapse has sparked some serious conversation here about whether or not a tragedy could happen, say, on the Detroit River or up on the Straits of Mackinac and some.
Okay, we are going to move forward on to this next video now that I had talked about before it, where Pete Buttigieg talks about the rebuilding of the bridge itself.
The path to normalcy will not be easy. It will not be quick. It will not be inexpensive. But we will rebuild together. This is no ordinary bridge. This is one of the cathedrals of American infrastructure. It has been part of the skyline of this region for longer than many of us have been alive. The president's plan is to work with everyone here in order to rebuild this bridge and reopen this port, including our readiness as a department to approve emergency funding as soon as we receive that request. Meanwhile, our Maritime Administration will help with port, harbor, and supply chain operations. Our Federal Highway Administration will assist when it comes to the bridge itself and any ways that we can help ease roadway congestion for residents and commuters who can no longer use this major thoroughfare.
And for everyone who is offering prayers and supports, I can tell you those prayers are working and we are grateful. Just in this time, this state has been able to show.
Wait, have you reached 20 likes? You have? 21. Oh boy. I'm not doing my job. Okay, hold on. Cisco. Okay, we already heard what he said, so that was a good time to stop it. Anyways, they should rename it now, you think? I'm trying to remember, who the fuck was Francis Scott Key? Is that the guy who wrote the Star Spangled Banner? Oh yeah, he is the Star Spangled Banner guy. Okay. Cathedral, another word for old and needs replacing. Very funny. Okay, sticking with infrastructure for a moment here until we move on to American healthcare related stuff. Although this is kind of a segue intentionally. This is a NBC Bay Area piece from 19 hours ago. Martinez residents want to see refineries held accountable.
New at 11, should criminal charges be filed against refineries? Congressman Mark DeSaulnier floating that idea tonight during a town hall meeting in Martinez, which is in his district. The city has seen its fair share of incidents at the local refineries, and the community says enough is enough. So what now? Here's NBC's Pete Serratos.
I never know walking out my door if I'm going to smell gasoline, if I'm going to, if there's a rotten egg smell or whatever.
Heidi Taylor of Martinez is one of many residents living in a state of uncertainty due to numerous safety incidents at the local refineries. At tonight's town hall with Congressman Mark DeSaulnier, she's hoping to hear solutions to the ongoing problem.
I live with that fear and dread of, is something in the air? Can I go hiking today?
At the heart of her concerns is the Martinez Refinery
Freedom
Company. The site has been subject to investigations by both the county health department and air quality district officials, with a surprise inspection taking place last December.
Wait, you used to live in Martinez, AC? Wow. Hold on, I gotta go back because I was reading that.
Part of her concerns is the Martinez Refining Company. The site has been subject to investigations by both the county health department and air quality district officials, with a surprise inspection taking place last December due to the frequency of safety incidents, including a chemical release in 2022, as well as dozens of flaring incidents in the past year.
But you make sure that they're following it all the time.
But tonight, Congressman DeSaulnier is pushing for legislation to criminally charge refineries for not following standard safety protocols.
When people create a culture, they assume responsibility. I don't know what the punishment might be right now. Might be some standard of manslaughter.
In the meantime...
So this is huge. If you heard what he said just now, if you didn't hear what he just said, I gotta say it that way. I don't know why I'm always saying it the other way, which makes no sense at all. If you didn't hear what he just said, he basically is suggesting that this could rise to the level of manslaughter and carries actual jail sentences. So the implications of such a lawsuit is very important. And it's about time that oil companies such as these face the music, at least a little bit, in terms of their impacts to health and the environment. This is just a tiny drop in the bucket, but an important one. And if you heard, I think they mentioned it during this, but like people have been getting really bad sort of health effects from living around this plant, including cancers, among other things. Okay. Now going into specifically just healthcare related stuff for a moment. First one is also from NBC Bay Area. This is San Francisco vaccine. Wait, what? Why is this in here? This is old. Hold on. All right, I gotta skip past this one. What's this? Okay, yeah. What the fuck? How did I not notice that until just now? I suck. Alright. This one is from the Associated Press from 10 hours ago, where there were protests outside of the Supreme Court, where they are currently hearing, I believe, argument. Are they hearing? I think they're actually just weighing arguments over the request of, what is the name of them again? The Allied Defense of Freedom Peoples, who are suing to get mifepristone taken off of shelves, which is the drug name for the abortion pill.
All right. We're here to boldly defend and tell the court that this medication is safe, that abortion is health care, that this case is a sham. This medication is safe, has been used safely for decades. The implications of this case could not be more extreme, could not be more far-reaching. And no matter what the justices say, no matter what the court says, people will still access medication abortion. People will still get care even outside of the formal health care system safely. Self-managed abortion is safe. Abortion with pills is safe. People will get care safely with dignity, no matter what this court says.
I'm here today because we need to put an end to the no testing online distribution of chemical abortion drugs that are not only hurting our women and children, but they're tainting our water supply and affecting our environment and our whole ecosystem. So we need to put an end and put the safeguards back in place and address the issue that is not only killing women, but our children.
I am here to make...
Okay, we got more stuff to look at on this, so I'm going to move us forward. This is a CNN piece regarding this exact same court case.
The Supreme Court just finished hearing arguments in a monumental case threatening access to medication abortion in the U.S., even in states where abortion remains legal. The lawsuit brought by a group of anti-abortion doctors and medical organizations alleges that the FDA violated the law in how it regulated mifepristone. CNN's Paula Reed is outside the Supreme Court. So, Paula, what were the key arguments in this case, and did the justices give any inclination on how they may rule?
Yeah, Manu, at this point, it appears a majority of justices are skeptical that this conservative group has standing or the right to bring this lawsuit. And that was the focus of most of the questions throughout this hearing. Now, this conservative group argues that, the medical professionals within it could at some point be called upon to issue medical treatment to someone who has had complications from using mifepristone. And they say they object to that, and that's what gives them standing. But lawyers for the government have said, wait a second, you haven't actually been harmed. There's no imminent harm. And there are already federal exemptions and protections for you if you object to something related to abortion in terms of medical treatment. So it's interesting to hear the justices across the ideological spectrum press all the lawyers on this question of standing. Now let's take a listen to what Justice Alito said about this issue.
Could you provide a more specific answer to the first question that Justice Thomas asked you? Is there anybody who could challenge in court the lawfulness of what the FDA did here?
In this particular case, I think the answer is no.
Well, that wasn't my question. Is there anybody who can do that? Let's start with the states that intervened below.
All right, Justice Alito clearly did not like that answer, but the Supreme Court has recognized the fact that there are cases where, not necessarily in each case does someone somewhere have standing. Now, this would be an off-ramp, Manu, for the justices if they don't even want to get into the issue of medication abortion and instead say, look, this group doesn't have standing. And we also...
Now, let's just hope that they take that off-ramp. It sounds to me like they are leaning in the direction of dismissing this case. And that would be the sensible thing to do. But knowing the people who are on the Supreme Court, such as Clarence Thomas and Amy Coney Barrett and Justice Kavanaugh, among just to name a few of them, not exactly the most sensible types of people. So, no guarantees, folks. But there is some optimism among the people I've been listening to, so I am trying to stay on that side of optimism. Okay. Let's move to this next video, which I somehow missed, but this is from 7 days ago, from Face the Nation, where new video was released of people suspected of building the noose and gallows before the Capitol riot.
CBS News has obtained surveillance video showing what appears to be people erecting a gallows and a noose, which were seen during January 6th during that attack on the Capitol.
Yeah, this is congressional investigators who released these images. We'll put them up on the screen now. They want to know why no one has been arrested for unlawful assemblage and construction on Capitol grounds. That's the technical violation here. The footage shows a group of people early on the day of the riots entering Union Square Park, and they are seen hauling lumber hours before former President Trump directly told his supporters to march.
Here's a question. Why is this guy dressed like a complete idiot? He looks like he's going to attend like some sort of formal gathering of idiots in like 1700. What is this? What is happening here?
To the Capitol. He said he'd meet them during his rally in Washington.
CBS News congressional correspondent Scott McFarlane has more from Capitol Hill. Scott, talk to us about exactly what the video reveals.
This is one of those still stubborn mysteries from January 6th. We still don't know who let those pipe bombs on Capitol Hill, and we don't yet have any information about somebody being arrested for the erection of those gallows. That horrifying image on the west front of the U.S. Capitol, the gallows with an orange noose, which is an iconography and an illustration of something that really meant racism and hatred for generations in America. We know from the new video obtained by CBS News, some of the construction of this gallows happened brazenly in the early morning hours of January 6, 2021. The movement of the lumber through iconic streets of Washington, D.C., Independence Avenue, onto the lawn of the Capitol grounds happened in plain sight. around the 6 a.m. hour. Then, over the course of the morning, some wood was impaneled on the west front of the Capitol. Then, around the 1 p.m. hour.
And what's ridiculous is you see there's a bunch of other people walking around, and somehow nobody notices or points out the fact there's a fucking gallows there. It's crazy.
And the noose were affixed, according to the Congressional Review.
That's right, Mona. You dress for the job you want.
According to the same Congressional Review, Tony and Lilia, there's been nobody identified as a suspect in this, and our CBS News review of 1,300 or so criminal cases associated with January 6th shows none of the named defendants being linked to this. So 3 years and 2 months later, this remains a transcendent and troubling mystery for all involved.
It's very interesting, Scott. It's also interesting that...
And if you didn't catch that, he just said that nobody who was charged in the January 6th Capitol riots were charged with this. So either those 4 individuals managed to completely skirt the law, or at least avoid being charged for that portion of this fiasco. I think fiasco is the very nicest way to put the whole situation, because it's yeah, completely fucked.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Okay. This next one is from Democracy Now! 13 hours ago, where Donald Trump is finally being held to account after half-century of criminality.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. A New York judge has set April 15th, the start date for Donald Trump's hush money trial, the first of Trump's 4 criminal trials. On that day, Trump will become the first former U.S. president to ever face a criminal trial. He's accused of falsifying business records in violation of New York law to cover up hush money payments made to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Trump was in court Monday when the judge rejected requests to delay the trial. The judge directly criticized Trump's legal team for alleging prosecutors had improperly withheld documents from them. Meanwhile, in a separate case, a New York State appeals court has reduced Trump's bond to $175 million, down from over $450 million, to cover a civil fraud judgment. The court also gave Trump 10 more days to pay. If Trump doesn't post the bond, New York Attorney General Letitia James could begin seizing some of his properties. To talk more about this and more, we are joined by David K. Johnston, Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter, co-founder of DC Report, has covered Donald Trump since the 80s. His books include The Big Cheat, How Donald Trump Fleeced America and Enriched Himself and His Family. His latest piece for The New Republic is Today is the Day That 50 Years of Grifting Finally Comes to an End. So start off talking about the significance of this reduction of money he has to pay. Do you think he's going to post it in the next 10 days? And what exactly it means, David?
Well, it is not unusual for courts to lower the size of a bond from the entire amount owed to some lesser amount. There have been a number of cases of this, and it's discretionary on the part of the courts. The bond is not intended to be punitive. It is to guarantee payment, and Trump has other assets. So I think that was a reasonable...
So I guess, I mean, if we take this guy at his word, I guess, and the thing is, I'm not a lawyer, and so I don't know these things. And yesterday I made the claim that that isn't normal, and it still doesn't sound normal to me. But according to this dude, it happens more than I thought.
Decision of this court, much as it's upset many people who are critical of Donald. The appeal will probably not take all that long, a matter of months, and having read carefully Judge Engoron's decision, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a professor of law, but not a lawyer, and many lawyers don't see any significant grounds for appeal. The best Trump can hope for is that the roughly $350 million base award, the bond is for half of that, might be shaved back a bit, but that's about all Trump can hope for.
And David, when he was asked how he would put up now the $175 million bond in his fraud case, Trump said in a news conference Monday, quote, "I don't need to borrow money. I have a lot of money." Your response to that?
Well, this goes right to the heart of how there is no sense of objective truth or facts in Donald's world. If Donald says something, that means it's so. And if you disagree, well, you know what, Juan? Fake news. His lawyers told the court that he couldn't possibly get a bond for $454 million. He couldn't do more than $100 million at most. And then he turns around and says, I have $500 million in cash. Donald just makes this stuff up. And he's done it his entire life. He's done it for the 35 years that I've known him. He just makes it up. Now, my guess is that he is going to borrow this money somehow. He has another bond for $83 million from a Swiss insurer, Chubb, in the E. Jean Carroll second defamation case. And in this case, he's been meeting with at least once Jeffrey Yass, a guy who's worth about $25 billion, and who owns 7% of ByteDance, the parent of TikTok. As president, Donald issued an executive order banning TikTok. A court threw that out because he doesn't have the authority to do that. He said it was a national security threat. Now he's saying we need TikTok. How interesting. He makes friends with the guy who has his fortune tied up in TikTok, and suddenly he's in favor of TikTok.
We also...
Okay. So yeah, it's a little more in-depth to this whole Donald Trump trial situation. And just interesting to hear that that there's this relationship that he's formed with the man who owns a large percentage of TikTok, and him suddenly coming out for TikTok, because I almost forgot that he tried to ban TikTok outright with was it an executive order? Okay. This next one is fucking ridiculous. Sticking with American legal system related shit, even though it's pretty boring. This is from the AP. This is from like 7 hours ago. Texas AG Ken Paxton reaches a deal to end 2015 fraud charges. Now, just to get you up to speed on this, if you're unaware of it, Ken Paxton, while in office, was charged with fraud. He was selling securities, aka stocks, during his tenure, received a large 100,000 stock payment, claimed that it was given to him before ever selling these stocks. But when I'm saying selling, we're talking about him touting, right? Him going out and literally speaking on behalf of this company to get investors to buy the stock, right? This kind of situation, I'm pretty sure in every metric is fucking illegal, and I have no idea how he managed to drag out the not the investigation, but he was charged in 2015. So for 10 years, he didn't go to court. For 10 years, he didn't have to literally really do much of anything about this situation. They've dragged it on and dragged it on. He hasn't gone to jail. It's ridiculous. Anyways, let's watch this quick clip from from the Associated Press on this situation.
Morning, General. Any comment? All rise. 185th District Court is now in session.
Prosecutors announced a deal with Texas AG Ken Paxton to drop securities fraud charges that were pending against him for nearly a decade. The resolution lets Paxton avoid a trial which had been set to begin April 15th.
Service in Collin County.
I know in this case, we're glad to have this resolved. We're glad it worked out in our favor.
If he had been convicted, Paxton could have been sentenced to life in prison.
But you know what? That's why God built the courthouse.
There was the community service, which he's more than happy to do. There's 15 hours of ethics, which he's
Community service or life in prison. Wow, what a deal.
more than happy to do. And there's the payment of the restitution. That's pretty much it.
Justice was certainly delayed. I think the agreement that we've reached today.
It sounds like justice wasn't just delayed, it was completely foregone.
Scores the fact that justice was not denied to the victims in this case, to Mr. Paxton, and ultimately to the people of the state of Texas I've had the privilege of representing.
That right there is the prosecutor in the case, who apparently folded on doing his job. But just for a little more context. Okay. Ken Paxton. He was the member. He was a member of the Texas House of Representatives from 2003 to 2013 of the 70th District of Texas. A member of the Senate from 2013 to 2015. And then the Attorney General of Texas from 2015 until 2023. So, you know, that's probably, if you just what do you call it? A little piece of advice for anybody out there. If you want to avoid going to jail and being prosecuted for crimes, become the AG of a state and former senator. Then you won't have to go to jail because it's a multi-tiered justice system. But in relation to this whole situation, where is it? Where is it? Just trying to find this shit. Where is it? How do I not have it in front of me? Okay. So yeah, in 2015, he was indicted by a grand jury because, just to make this all perfectly clear, he wasn't even just alleged, it was proven that he sold shares to investors of a company called Servergy, and without failing to disclose that he was receiving compensation from that company. And yet yeah, it's just completely been disregarded. No big deal. Anyway, this I meant to put this in beforehand, but it snuck in afterwards. So this is a little bit more of American related stuff. And this is a Biden-Harris speech in which they vow to preserve health care.
Hello, North Carolina. Access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege. No matter who you are, where you live, or how much you earn. And President Biden, with your support, will continue to make sure that everyone in our country has the health care they need.
Kamala and I have come back to North Carolina to celebrate the ACA and to remind all of us we can't take anything for granted. But even during the deadly pandemic, Trump and his MAGA friends in Congress wanted to get rid of the ACA, kick millions of Americans off their health insurance. It's sick. Now they want to, quote his word, terminate the ACA, as my predecessor says. If that ever happened, we'd also terminate a lot of lives as well. But we're not going to let that happen, are we? We're not going to let that happen. Trump proudly says, quote, after 50 years with no one coming close, I was able to kill Roe v. Wade. That's his statement. You've seen it on television. What?
Under your watch. It happened while you were president, man. You literally had like 2 years, 3, like 2.5. It was a long time. You had a long time, and then it happened. And granted, like, he technically made it happen vicariously through the Supreme Court by electing them, but you had time to do something about it.
Talking about how Donald Trump killed Roe v. Wade. He says it has to be punishment for women exercising their reproductive freedom. Trump and MAGA Republicans are responsible for the chaos that followed, and they're now calling for a national ban on choice for every state, in every state, not just what is in law now. On top of that, just this morning, the Supreme Court heard a case to gut access to...
Oh my God, he can barely get a fucking sentence out, and it's very, very frustrating. And the thing about this whole speech that bothers the fuck out of me is that they do not state specifically what they plan to do about abortion. They've done nothing up to this point aside from allowing it to be banned, well, not banned, but overturned in the Supreme Court. They've now been campaigning in preparation for the general here, and yet I don't hear any specific plans. It's just saying, oh, we will protect it. You can't protect something that's gone, okay? So how are you going to bring it back?
That was approved by the FDA 20 years ago to give women a choice. Folks, if America sends me a Congress that are Democrats, I promise you, Tom and I will restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
Okay, so it's up to us. We have to give him a Congress, even though we gave him a Congress in 2020 to make sure that it would get done. Once again, he doesn't really specifically say what he'll do. It sounds like he'll pass a bill, okay, which is good, and I'd love to see that happen. But it's a little frustrating that we're hearing this now.
We will. Folks,
I guess we'll see what happens. I guess we gotta send him a Democratic Congress, and we'll see what happens. It's very difficult to know what he's saying half the time, but it sounds like he wants to pass a law. I'd point out that would make it, I'm pretty sure, pretty easy to undo. Although what is permanent in this world anyway? Apparently nothing. Oh God, it's so depressing to feel like he's the guy that I'm supposed to be for, that I'm supposed to be effectively like pushing for in a way, right? Because who's my other choice right now? What, RFK or Trump? I mean, that's insanity. But this guy is just, nothing he says or does gets me excited to do anything. And it's a good point. Pitchforks, maybe a little bit dark. But Biden's not going to be around as long as I am, or a lot of other people, because he's in his 80s. People don't live to be 175. Okay, this next one is from a day ago. This is actually recounting something historical, but just feels like a a respite from the present, okay? That's what we're going to call it. This is a respite from the present. However, it's not the most happiest story. This is The Year Without a Summer. How a massive volcano altered the course of human history. Global news.
Did you know a single volcano once changed global weather patterns altered the history of entire continents and indirectly inspired some of the most iconic works of art in history? Well, you may not have heard about it, because it happened in the early 19th century and was buried in time. 60 years before the invention of telecommunications, the world was plunged into darkness by a massive volcanic explosion 8 degrees south of the equator off of the coast of Indonesia. In April of 1815, Mount Tambora erupted on the island of Sumbawa. It was among the largest volcanic eruptions in the last millennium, killing tens of thousands of locals and leaving behind a crater 7 kilometers wide. The particles ejected by Tambora's eruption had reverberations far from Indonesia's shores, altering global weather patterns and ushering in what we call today the year without a summer. So what did a year without summer mean for life on Earth? First and foremost, it led to a worldwide agricultural disaster. Temperatures on planet Earth dropped roughly 3 degrees Celsius, leading to a dark volcanic winter around the globe.
Volcanoes cool the climate in most situations if enough of that gas gets high enough up into the stratosphere. And the nitty-gritty is that sulfur dioxide turns into very quickly into sulfuric acid. So into tiny little minuscule droplets called aerosols. If we eject these tiny acid droplets high up into the atmosphere, they will absorb the solar energy coming in and then reflect it. So that ends up cooling, leading to an overall global cooling in a very short period of time.
The burgeoning new nation known as the United States wasn't spared either, as Tambora's eruption triggered the first economic depression in US history after decimating the survival rate of both crops and livestock. It even prompted unprecedented snowfall in the northeast, leading to mass migration westward. Elsewhere in the world, China's Yunnan province faced a 3-year famine after its monsoon season was completely derailed, forcing farmers to abandon their rice farms and turn to poppies for income. This trickle effect inadvertently fueled the expansion of opiate production in China and laid the groundwork for future societal challenges and what would eventually become the Opium Wars decades later. The rampant spread of disease was another byproduct of the year without a summer. Cholera outbreaks already sweeping India, mutated and ravaged populations weakened by famine, claiming countless lives across Asia and eventually Europe. Simultaneously, a potato shortage in Ireland left the malnourished population ill-prepared to battle a typhus epidemic, and later spread across shores to England. But Tambora's eruption wasn't just a calamity that altered the lives of countless people, it also played an indelible role in shaping the arts worldwide. The atmosphere
fuck it, we'll just keep watching it.
Effects in particular kept Europeans inside, stirring the creative minds of countless artists, including the young Mary Shelley. Lodging in Geneva with her husband Percy, friends Lord George Byron and Anne Byron, the four found inspiration in the then grim times to share ghost stories with one another. Shortly after, in the damp, cold summer of 1818, Shelley penned Frankenstein, the iconic monster story that would go on to become one of the most culturally significant writings in history.
Okay. I just figured we would watch a video that made us look back at history at some of the bad stuff that happened a long time ago. Like 150 years ago, exactly. Which, you know, at least puts some things in perspective. At least at least humans have gotten through it before, gotten through bad things before, and hopefully we will come up with creative solutions to avoid any actual doom. But yeah, it just seemed interesting. I wasn't even aware of this happening in the 1800s. It does explain some of the very dark writing from people around that turn of the century there, though. At least some of them. But speaking of smoke, let's go to this next video from the Associated Press, where some 58 different forest fires are reported across 15 Mexican states from 22 hours ago. It's sad. There's a lot of loss, and it's the property of so many people. Sometimes these things happen because of our negligence as human beings for not taking care of Mother Earth. Okay. Well, as unfortunate as it's really not yet fire season, as we've been talking about. I mean, we're definitely coming up on it now. Spring is going to be... When is the first day of spring? Like a month? But yeah, we've already had a bunch of fires happening in the Western Hemisphere. Texas, now Mexico. Not great. This is a slightly more upbeat video from, was it DW? No, Associated Press. German village reaps benefits of renewable energy projects. Renewable energy projects are visible in the landscape, and it's very important to me that local people can identify with these plans. And that works best when they are involved and participate. The citizens of a place where we have installed the wind turbines can participate directly in this project. This means that they are entrepreneurs in the park and can then benefit from the profits that we generate. Now, if we could just get governments to do this across the scale. The community wind farms also generate business taxes. This means that the local communities here in our region are also better off. Okay. I think that's all I got for climate and tech related news today. Next, got a Democracy Now! Piece talking to British Prime Minister, not Prime Minister, whatever, Minister Prime, MP, British MP, Jeremy Corbyn at UK court. As Assange extradition is delayed. And if you're not aware of this, Julian Assange is currently in the United Kingdom, trying to avoid extradition to the United States. And the UK court has just come back with a ruling, essentially. Let's listen in here.
The High Court in London has put the extradition of Julian Assange on hold until the U.S. provides Britain with more assurances about how the WikiLeaks publisher will be treated in U.S. custody. The court asked the U.S. for assurances that Assange will be permitted to rely on the First Amendment, that he won't face discrimination at trial because he's Australian, and that he will not face the death penalty. The London High Court also ruled Assange may be able to file additional appeals to block the extradition, but that'll depend on how the U.S. responds to the court's request. Julian Assange has been held in London's Belmarsh prison for nearly 5 years, awaiting possible extradition to the U.S., where he faces up to 175 years in prison for publishing classified documents exposing U.S. war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan. Julian Assange's wife, Stella, spoke outside the courthouse just before our broadcast.
Today's decision is astounding. The courts recognize that Julian is exposed to a flagrant denial of his freedom of expression rights, that he is being discriminated against on the basis of his nationality, an Australian. and that he remains exposed to the death penalty. And yet, what the courts have done have been to invite a political intervention from the United States to send a letter saying it's all okay. I find this astounding. 5 years into this case, the United States has managed to show the court that their case remains an attack on press freedom, an attack on Julian's life. What the courts haven't agreed to look at is the evidence that the United States has plotted to assassinate Julian, to kidnap him. Because if it acknowledges that, then of course he can't be sent to the United States.
That flies in the CIA, I'm pretty sure.
Julian is a political prisoner. He is a journalist, and he is being persecuted because he exposed the true cost of war in human lives. This case is a retribution. It is a signal to all of you that if you expose the interests that are driving war, they will come after you. They will put you in prison.
Yep. She's right. There's more to this interview, but I just want to watch all of it, as it's quite, well, not quite long, but it's long enough that I think speeding this up is probably necessary. So let's move over to here. But yeah, this whole situation with Julian Assange has been going on for what? Good God. Like 18 years, 17 years? I'm trying to think of when it was. 2008? Might have been later than that. This guy's been trying to avoid getting taken out by the United States one way or another for a long time. Okay, Amy, explain things to me further.
Mother of their 2 young children. We're joined now by British MP, that's British Member of Parliament Jeremy Corbyn, who served as the leader of the Labour Party from 2015 to 2020. He's standing outside the High Court. Welcome back to Democracy Now! MP Corbyn, if you could start off by responding to the court's decision, and if you can explain it in lay terms.
Thanks, Amy, and it's a real pleasure to be on the program with you. And this morning there was a decision by the court which, as Stella has pointed out, effectively invites the USA to give some assurances. But it also gives the opportunity for a further appeal by Julian against his removal to the USA. But if we can sort of unpick the whole thing, the reality is the pressure needs to now go on to the Biden administration, go on to President Biden.
You always get Julian Assange and Snowden and Edward Snowden confused. They look a lot different, I feel like. And I'm pretty sure Julian Assange is like 20 years older than Edward Snowden.
Look, you are trying to get somebody extradited from Britain under the Espionage Act, the same act that was used against Daniel Ellsberg, to be put into a supermax prison for the rest of his life, a death penalty. Why? Because he told the truth about Afghanistan, about Iraq, because he told uncomfortable truths about many other issues around the world. And if Julian goes down for this,
does that mean I'm in some sort of danger for telling the truth vicariously through this through this stream?
Serious journalist around the world is going to be slightly more cautious about exposing war crimes, exposing corporate greed and so many other things. And so I appeal, if I may, through you and your audience on Democracy Now!, we need the maximum pressure all across the USA on the Biden administration, on the candidates in the forthcoming election, to say, drop the charges against Julian Assange. We've had a big crowd outside the High Court here.
Yep.
And the date has been set for return here on May the 20th, and we'll obviously be back here. But I should also say the support for Julian is growing. We've got good decisions out of the European Parliament, that's the European Union Parliament. We've also got good decisions out of the Council of Europe, which is a parliamentary assembly, I'm a member of it, of all European countries. We've also got the support of a significant number of governments around the world, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, and so on, all around the world. And so we have got through today. We've got a slight move forward, but it's no more than that. It's now up to us, all of us, who believe in democracy, believe in freedom of speech, to put that pressure on the Biden administration and, in the case of Britain, on my own government here, where the Home Secretary ultimately has the right to decide whether or not an extradition goes ahead. Whatever the courts say, ultimately it's a political decision by the governments of the day. And there's a growing number of us in the UK Parliament that will continue putting that pressure on as well.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I am apt to agree with Jeremy Corbyn in this instance. I know that's shocking. But, yeah, no, I probably agree with Jeremy Corbyn more often than I don't. Yeah, it's about time. Is it 20 years, Stephen? God damn it. Why have we not solved this Stephen situation? It's just become a running joke now. But yeah, 20 fucking years, right? It's out of control. And it's all just based upon the American government not liking that he exposed crimes that they committed. And it's about time that, you know, that something was done there. We'll see what happens. Okay, moving quickly on to Haiti, where Canadians are airlifting out citizens from Haiti. Oh shit, I missed this one. Do we watch this as well? Before we move to Haiti, let's just watch this quick Al Jazeera piece on Julian Assange to wrap this situation up with Julian, at least for today. Click.
A temporary reprieve for Julian Assange in his fight against extradition to the United States, where espionage charges, his lawyers say, could net him 175 years in jail. But it's not the full appeal hearing he'd hoped for. Not yet.
The justices decided that Assange's appeal can go ahead, but only if the US and the UK fail to provide reassurances in his case at a further hearing here on May the 20th.
The court wants a guarantee that Assange will not receive the death penalty. And the judges rejected the argument that the US charges are politically motivated and therefore contrary to the rules of extradition.
These 400,000 documents.
In 2010, Assange and his organisation WikiLeaks published thousands of documents leaked by the whistleblower Chelsea Manning that revealed alleged US criminality, including torture, extrajudicial killing and rendition by the US government in Iraq and Afghanistan. The US government says the documents were obtained illegally and their publication compromised the safety of sources contained in them.
I wasn't referring to how long Assange was doing WikiLeaks, just how long it was that he'd been essentially wanted by the U.S. government. And that was essentially directly after the release of the, I think what they were referred to as the Pentagon Papers in 2010.
Fighting extradition for 5 years while in London's Belmarsh prison. He'd previously spent 7 years as a political refugee inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Speaking afterwards, his wife Stella said she was astounded by the decision.
What am I talking about? Not the Pentagon Papers. That's a completely different situation. Everybody forget that. That's from Vietnam. Why am I mixing up things in my head today? I have not had enough caffeine, chat. This is bad. I might need to make coffee.
Have been to invite a political intervention from the United States to send a letter saying it's all okay. I find this astounding.
Describing her husband as a political prisoner, Stella Assange called on the Biden administration to drop what she said was a shameful case.
Yep, you're right, Morbius. I mean, Pitchforks. Why do I keep calling you I've called you Morbius twice now, I think, the last few days. My brain is fried. But yeah, not politically motivated in any way whatsoever. It wouldn't make sense. Why would it be political? Okay, now on to Haiti, where Canadian military is evacuating Canadian citizens from Haiti.
We know that the Haitian people have been facing multidimensional crisis, a security crisis, a humanitarian crisis, and a political crisis. Gangs are terrorizing the streets. Women and children are scared of getting out of their homes. And corruption is running rampant. And now the gangs have taken the airport, leaving no way to leave Port-au-Prince without putting families in danger. As a government, our number one priority is always the safety of Canadians at home and abroad. For nearly 2 years, we have advised Canadians not to travel to Haiti due to the security situation in the country. At the same time, we know that the security situation has deteriorated in recent weeks, and those who wish to leave are unable to do so because of the security situation at the airport in Port-au-Prince. This is why today we are launching an assisted departure for the most vulnerable Canadians in Haiti. We have also deployed diplomats and consular agents across the region to make sure that we can support this work. We will be facilitating the travel of the most vulnerable Canadians in Haiti to the Dominican Republic. At present, the Dominican Republic has strict eligibility requirements for all those entering the country. Only Canadian citizens who have a valid Canadian passport will be eligible for this assisted departure. The same requirements applies to our allies and our partners, including the US. This is why we are working for other Canadian and family members, as well as permanent residents and their family members, to be able to have access to other types of assisted departure options. Canada has a policy of not separating families. This is my priority. And since Canadians are in particularly vulnerable situations right now, we've made the decision to begin the operation now with these parameters in mind. With the passport requirement of the Dominican Republic in mind, Global Affairs Canada has reached out to Canadians who have inquired about departure options to inform them of this option.
Okay, well, just figure I would make that little stop there in Haiti, because that's basically the most recent news that I've seen out of there. It's not a good situation right now in Haiti. Let's just say this, it has not gotten better. Okay, on to Argentina, where we have multiple stories to cover. The first one is regarding worker protest against job cuts, as President Milei slashes government spending. Employees of Argentina's family art agriculture ministry at the INAFCI protested potential job cuts after an announcement. No, I was not fast enough. After an announcement. God damn you. Of the ministry's closure. So he just closed the entire ministry. The government has accused INAFCI of mismanaging funds, while workers deny they belong to elite corruption rings. We found out in the news that the presidential spokesperson said the family agriculture ministry was going to close down. This means 900 workers that live off of their salaries would go jobless. Everything that is going on leaves the people unprotected. Government workers are left without a job. We are not part of the corrupt power groups nor hired through nepotism. The farmers in the ministry are left vulnerable because they are stripped from their rights and from the public policies helping them. The consumers are affected as well, and the system that provides produce, vegetables, fruits, and meat from La Plata's agricultural region to consumers in the city will be dismantled. The government is talking about importing food we can produce here. These policies attack Argentines in general and the working class. On some real shit, how many incels would switch sides in American politics if Julian Assange was pardoned by Biden? I don't know. Is that even a thing? Okay, sticking with Argentina. A historic dengue fever outbreak has been reported just recently. This was from... Sorry. This is from 6 hours ago. At first there was a loud bang. Whoa, wait a second. Hold the fucking phone. What just happened? How did we just switch to this? Motherfucker, I thought I fixed this. Hold on, chat. Oh my god. It's not set up this way over here. Explain to me, why is this happening? Boo. Oh, it just skipped the video? Or what just happened? Go back. There we go. Yeah. Did I skip the video somehow? He can't stand. He has a lot of body pain, and the fever drops to 38.5 and rises again to 40. It has been like this since yesterday. I have a fever and body pain. It's terrible. Before I move on, what the fuck is going on? There we go. So, just for some clarity on what we're talking about here, dengue fever is a mosquito-borne tropical disease caused by the virus dengue. And the typical symptoms begin between 3 and 14 days after an infection and may include a high fever, headache, vomiting, muscle and joint pains, as well as rash. But it can, in fact, be deadly, depending. It's much more deadly among children and elderly people. But there have been 150,000 reported cases so far in Argentina. as well as 106 deaths. And the it's higher than the average amount of deaths in Argentina for this by a great deal. So that is somewhat worrisome, as mosquitoes are hard to stop from migrating. There's definitely a lot of stuff that needs to be done to combat that sort of a thing. Okay. What's next? Okay, now going to the war in Ukraine and Russia. This is from Global News from a day ago, entitled "Terrorism, Nothing Else. 7 Injured in Russian Missile Attack on Kyiv." At first, there was a loud bang like the sound of air defense. A few seconds later, an air siren went off, but we didn't hear it very well. 5 to 10 seconds later, there was another very loud bang. I heard glass being blown out. I was lucky to be wearing a hoodie. I put the hood on and kneeled to take cover under the counter. I tried to squeeze in as much as possible, but there's a fridge under the counter, so there was not enough room for me. That's it. It saved me. I was not hurt much, just a hand and my hoodie was ripped. Otherwise, it was all good. If it felt closer, anything could have happened. No, she was one of the lucky ones, as 7 people died. Let's listen to this guy, who is the mayor of Kyiv. This was a ballistic missile, and the air raid alert started only when the first explosions could be heard in the city. There were 3 explosions simultaneously in 3 districts, in the Pechersky district, Solomyansky district, and in Darnetsky district. It was pure luck that nobody died in this educational facility for children. It was closed, but as of now, 5 people asked for medical assistance, including a 16-year-old girl who were hospitalized. This is a residential area and an educational facility. There are no military entities here, so the only explanation for this is terrorism. Nothing else. Interesting. I mean, my initial guess was that it was Russia, but I would assume the mayor has more information than I do. It's interesting that both Ukraine and Russia have been attacked by terrorism, if that's the case. Not to suggest that this has been done by ISIS, as no one has claimed responsibility for the attack yet. Although maybe he's referring. The thing is, it's an entitled Russian military. So, and the fact is, it's first-hand accounts, and I think it's possible that he's just saying that what Russia has done is terrorism. Because I believe that Global News wouldn't put out a title like 7 injured in Russian missile attack if it wasn't a Russian missile attack. So, I think that's what makes the most sense. To this next video, though, we're just going to quickly look at how Ukraine is currently attempting to ramp up its own weapons production amidst a lack of military aid. Some guy starts talking in here. We are actively working to increase production volumes. This is the Director General of Ukrainian Armor, Vladislav Belbis. We communicate with customers daily, so we understand the impact this equipment has on the course of battle and the war. Every day we understand the needs, what we need to do, and how it affects our servicemen. Okay. Dang, am I 2 hours in already? How did that happen? Ugh. Okay, chat. Wait, what the heck? That's weird. I did something, and now it's gone. It just disappeared. Somehow it didn't save. Oh, this is making me sad. It's making me super sad. Oh, chat. Oh, it breaks my heart. All that effort. Well, I'm sorry to one of our patrons who requested something, which I made happen. At least I thought I made happen. Oh, wait for it. Wait. I take it back. I take it back. Blam. There he is. Ernest Borgnine in the house. Hanging out in the pool. With me, Galactic Streamlord, thanks to one of our patrons, Gabby. Anyway, if you too want to add something to this here set, and or help me produce the Galactic News Network, you too can become a patron by clicking this link in chat or in the bio in my YouTube description. And for just a few dollars a month, you can become even more galactic than you already are. Anyways, chat, just gonna take a quick break and I'll be right back. Alright, chat, I'm back. Good to see you all still here. You have a wood watch, which you use for, what's it called? I can't think of that. Superstitious. That's the word. Superstitious purpose. Okay. Hold on. Do one thing here. Thank you, Mo. Thank you. I am back. No need to fear. Okay, let's make sure this is all set properly. Okay. Ow, that's my face. I think I'm gonna move this one. I just don't like the way this is set up. Fuck it. No, I'm doing it. Go. Go. That did not do what I wanted it to. Where did that go? Son of a bitch. Fuck it. My computer hates me. Alright, we are now going to discuss the massacre in Gaza. First one, let's look at where to start off. This is from... Oh, actually, no, we have one more to look at first. There was a suicide bomb attack in Pakistan. God, okay, yeah. I forgot about this. Somehow I forgot about a suicide bombing that killed at least 5 people that I know of. This is Al Jazeera regarding that situation. What's going on? What's happening? Oh, there we go. Okay, now work. That's fine. No big deal. Or not. Go web, go, please.
5 Chinese nationals and their local driver have been killed in a suicide attack in Pakistan. It happened in Shangla in the country's northwest. Local police say the victims were heading to work on the Dasu Dam project. It comes just a week after 7 gunmen attempted to storm the offices of Gwadar port in the southwest. Kamal Haider has more on the attack from the capital, Islamabad.
Whoa. What in the fuck? Why does this look so bad? Is this the max? No. What is that? Why would you give me 320? That is so offensive to my eyes.
5 Chinese workers along with their Pakistani driver were killed in Peshawar when a vehicle packed with explosives rammed into their vehicle, and that went into a ravine and caught fire. Now, according to the Pakistani military, this is a direct attack on the Pakistan-China strategic partnership. The Pakistani Foreign Office and the President has condemned this. Pakistan says that it has become a frontline state against terrorism. The Pakistani authorities also saying that they had foiled at least 2 major attacks on Pakistani naval facilities in the port of Gwadar and Turbat in the last few days.
And I think we've actually covered one of those. But yeah, the situation in Pakistan is devolving. And I think that the promises of the Israeli situation not escalating into a wider conflict is starting to become more and more unrealistic, which I really am not a big fan of. I really wish it was the opposite of that. That's just me. I'm an optimist. An optimist who runs a Doomer report. A tragic life. Wait, you didn't see Ernest Borgnine? Oh, well, behold everything. You didn't see Ernest Borgnine. It's right here. Ernest. Over here in the corner. Just kind of relaxing. Hard to tell, but because it's a black and white photo, because the dude was born in like 1917 or something. But yeah, he's wearing the perfect shirt. He's got a Hawaiian shirt on, just like me. Ready to hang out at the beach, you know? But also ready to go to like a semi-chill business meeting type of deal, right? Just like hanging out, relaxing by the pool. Totally chill. Totally chill, man. Okay. But yeah, there you go. Ernest Borgnine in the corner. In the blue shorts. It's Ernest Borgnine. Where the fuck is Soul Life? I don't know. I don't run Soul Life's schedule, okay? He does what he has to do, alright? And that is all I have for you on that. But I have other things for you. Starting this off, we are going to look at a few things. Why do I have it in this order? Hold on, chat. Fuck me. I'm pissed off at myself. We're going to do it like that, like this. I like it like that. I like it. That's the way. I would like it to be, please. Thank you. Okay. And reload this now. Since you're both connected. Both friends. Okay. This first one, and the first couple actually, are going to be looking at U.S. relations in regards to the Israel-Gaza massacre / genocide. And recently, we're going to talk about that, why I'm using that word, a little bit later. But yeah, let's continue. First one is an Al Jazeera. I thought I added a different... No, maybe not. This is me. No, I had a different one, and then I added the Al Jazeera one, because this one's better. Okay, yeah. This is an Al Jazeera piece from 6 days ago. Somehow I fucking missed this shit. And this... Ooh, this boils my blood. This is former Trump official and stepson of Donald Trump. What's his name? Jared Kushner. Calling Gaza's quote-unquote waterfront property very valuable. And among other things, essentially supports an ethnic cleansing in the process. Former Trump advisor said waterfront property in Gaza could be very valuable and suggested Israel should remove Palestinians while it cleans up the strip.
In Gaza's waterfront property, it could be very valuable to, if people would focus on kind of building up, livelihoods. You think about all the money that's gone into this tunnel network and into all the munitions. If that would have gone into education or innovation, what could have been done? But I think from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up. But I don't think that Israel has stated that they don't want the people to move back there afterwards.
Yeah. Just listen to that again, because that was insane.
Done. But I think from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then
move the people out,
clean it up. But I
clean it up.
think that Israel has stated that they don't want.
And then probably Israel will let the people back.
People to move back there afterwards.
Yeah. It's fucking insane. And this guy is just like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what we need. We need Israel to develop the Gaza Strip for real estate value. fucking crazy. Fucking psychopathic words said by a complete fascist. Like this is the you know, this rises to the level of just utter grossness, right? It makes me sick to my stomach hearing him say shit like this, right? This guy used to be the secretary of, what was he? Wait, hold on. He was a foreign secretary of something. Hold on. And let's be real. If Trump becomes president, and this is one of those things where it's like, okay, this gives me reasons to vote for Biden somehow, because they've switched their stance by like 40% on Gaza, which is an improvement from fully supporting genocide to kind of being against it. He was the former senior advisor to the fucking president. He's such a ghoul. Absolutely, B-Cat's right. Dude is super gross. Alright, let's try to finish watching this. And like, I think that's actually all that they have of him talking, but there's more that they kind of contextualize it with. Kushner said he thinks Israel should move civilians from Gaza to the Negev Desert in southern Israel if the assault on Rafah happens.
Number one, you want to get as many civilians out of Rafah as possible. I think that you want to try to clear that out. If I was Israel right now, I would.
Did you hear him? He wants to clear out Rafah. It's like he doesn't even know what he's talking about. People went to Rafah because Israel told them to. Now he says, oh, well, Israel probably needs to clean that out too. Oh my fucking god. This guy, if Trump is reelected, this guy's going to be senior advisor to our whole lives, probably. Gaslight.
I think that you want to try to clear that out. If I was Israel right now, I would just bulldoze something in the Negev. I would try to move people in there.
Bulldoze the Negev desert and just put people there. In the desert. With... What? What the fuck is he talking about, dude? Ooh, yeah, the pandemic arm bump with Bibi Netanyahu.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
Palestinians in Gaza fear the aim of Israel's war is to force them out of their homeland. No kidding. Jared Kushner. Somehow give me a reason to be pro-Biden. Or anti-Trump further. Enough to be like, maybe Joe will get my vote with talk like that. Because that's fucking full-on insanity. That's full-on insanity. Right? Let's let Israel like just kind of develop the whole Gaza Strip. Bulldoze a spot in the desert for the Palestinians and just kind of drop them there. Let them invade and destroy Rafah as well, and just make it Israel all the way through. And then we'll maybe let the Palestinians back. I didn't quite catch what he thought was. It didn't seem like he had any real opinion on whether it would be bad if they went back or not, but he didn't seem to really care one way or the other. But I certainly wouldn't have a whole lot of confidence in Israel letting the Palestinians back after that. Are you kidding me? This shit needs to be stopped right now. The fact is Rafah has been getting attacked when it should not have. America already said some stuff, but didn't draw a real red line, but should have on Rafah, and needs to, because Israel is still planning on the further massacring people in Rafah against humanity, against the law, against any reason. This next one is from 9 hours ago, so much more recent. The U.S. says Israel's claims that UN resolution hindered hostage talks is inaccurate and unfair. Actually, maybe I should watch this one first. No, it's fine. It's fine. And what's this guy's name again? Oh, shit. It's another... I think he's defense... No, he's not defense. What is this dude? I forget this guy's name. I don't know. There's too many spokespeople for the government. I swear to God.
That statement, which I believe said that
Matthew
Hamas
Miller. Thank you. Thank you.
pulled out of the hostage talks, or
Infographic.
Hamas rejected the most recent proposal because of the United Nations Security Council resolution. That statement is inaccurate in almost every respect, and it is unfair to the hostages and their families.
Boom. Oh my God. Is it just me, chat? Or is it weird to hear the U.S. government use the word inaccurate when describing Israel of anything that they've said? Because that just totally, it blew my mind when I heard it first, and it's still blowing my mind. Because they've barely stepped on a toe.
The description of Hamas's response that has been aired in the public is all from news reports. It's not the actual substance of the response, and I can tell you that response was prepared before the UN Security Council vote, not after it. So for the United States, we are not going to engage in rhetorical distractions on this issue. We are going to continue to work to try to bring the hostages home. When you think about ramifications...
Yeah, let's not forget there's actually American Israelis that are currently being held hostage, but the government has basically ignored them. The press has basically ignored their existence for the entire situation. Even though they've talked about the existence of the hostages, no one in the media has really been talking about the fact that there are supposedly still American hostages being held. And it's seemingly very low on the list of both the government and the media.
We wanted to have that meeting with Israel to present that to them an alternative.
Isn't there a Nightbot command that about how Jesus? I think it's just command Jesus. I'm pretty sure. Give it a shot.
To accomplish their legitimate security goals of defeating the Hamas battalions in Rafah, because we believe it is in their interest to do this in a better way. We believe that a full-scale military operation in Rafah will not just cause civilian harm to the Palestinian people. It will not just hinder the flow of humanitarian assistance, most of which is coming in through the Rafah area and being distributed initially through Rafah. We believe that kind of operation would hurt Israel's national security. It will...
Oh, this picture's pissing me off because I have another video after this. Oh, fuck you. Just gonna power through it. Goose fraba, Streamlord.
Leave Israel more isolated in the world. It will separate Israel from countries that have been longtime partners of Israel. And you've heard this from countries all around the world. So we have been making clear that this kind of operation is not in Israel's interest, let alone in the interest of the Palestinian people. So when you speak to ramifications, those are the times.
I feel like I'm taking crazy
What
pills.
is happening? What happened to that Israel can do no wrong language? It's really, the tone has shifted so drastically in the last couple weeks. It feels like it hasn't even been a full 2 weeks since this really kicked off. It's been like 10 days. But it's, whew, tone changed. Hey, I'm not complaining. Aside from sort of like a post, like an in-post complaint that it's taken way too fucking long. But I'm not complaining about the actual, what do you call it? Content of that. Somehow, Mr. Miller has decided to say truthful things for once. Really shocking. Really, really shocking. Yes, use the power. Use the power of the commands. Okay, what am I doing? No shit. Hold on. Somehow I put my vape down over there. BRB chat. 2 seconds. Okay. What's next? Okay. These two next videos are in relation to protests that have been happening in Israel. They're two different protests. The first one is from the ultra-Orthodox, where the exemption for ultra-Orthodox is being lifted in the Israeli courts. The second one is of people protesting against the slow negotiations on hostages. So let's watch both of these. They're both from the Associated Press, so I probably won't even break between them. Well, where?
We are not interested in taking anybody out of the yeshiva who is learning full-time. He is what we call the Holy of Holies, and the army is not the place that they should be. They should be sitting and learning Torah to protect the people of Israel and the land of Israel.
To be honest, I got plenty of complaints about the ultra-Orthodox and their patriarchal sort of ways and things, but I would much rather have people studying the Torah than murdering Palestinians, I gotta say.
But for the many thousands of Haredi youth that are not sitting and learning in a full-time capacity, then we are waiting for them. Our organization is there to help them integrate into the army.
So this is a reverse protest of people actually protesting the ultra-Orthodox protesting being in the army. It's a protest of another protest.
חרדים בצבא עכשיו, לא דחיות, לא פוליטיקה ולא תרגילים.
Gotta love a good old counter protest. Anyways, let's go to this next one.
We're calling for a hostage deal now. We've been calling for a hostage deal for a long time. You can't stop negotiating while there are hostages still held captive inside Gaza. You can't do that. You have to make sure that you do whatever you can to get them all back home.
Okay, I think you get the point. People are pretty pissed off about how long it's taking Netanyahu to negotiate for the hostages. Probably because they're not really negotiating, they're stalling, kind of like Trump's been stalling his whole thing. A lot of stalling tactics going on out there these days with powerful people. I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate it. 2 more likes. 2 more likes and we... Yeah, Jessica Fletcher. Yep, you're right. That's completely true. You're 2 away. 28 likes. So close, yet so far. Just need to tell more people about the stream. Gotta shout out your window and say, you watch the Galactic News Network and like the stream. Don't forget to subscribe. And maybe that'll be effective. You know? I'm just thinking out loud for potential options. What's next? By the way, I wouldn't recommend screaming out your window if it's nighttime where you are. There's probably noise ordinances, so maybe wait till daytime, but that's not effective for now, so I actually, yeah. There's probably other options that are available to you, though. Anyways, moving away from the protests in Israel onto other things. This is from 6 hours ago. Al Jazeera. Northern Gaza cut off. Desperation grows with aid supplies blocked. Let's see this one.
They were born.
Ow. That was my ear blasted out forever. I'm deaf, chat. Never gonna be able to hear anything ever again.
Into this war, and they know nothing except this hospital. Kamal Adwan is one of the few remaining hospitals in the north of Gaza.
Children are paying the heaviest price. Due to the Israeli policy of starvation, children are suffering severe malnutrition. Most of the infants and children are hit with brain strokes. We are doing our best to save their lives, place them on medical ventilation. If children survive the Israeli ruthless bombardment, it is very unlikely they would survive due to the starvation.
Whoa, I'm gonna have to pause and restart because I hate to celebrate during this story, which is incredibly dark. I'm just gonna need to go back to about here because yeah, we something had just happened. We have achieved it. Jessica Fletcher unlocked. Let me find Jessica. Wait, why am I on the wrong? The fuck? This is the part of the stream where my stream software starts telling me that it doesn't want me to really mess with it, even though I definitely need to. Oh, stream software. You are the bane of my existence. Everything else runs perfectly fine. But you, no. You decide to do whatever you fucking want whenever you want to. And that's fine. That's not bothersome to me. I'm not bothered by that. Is it inconvenient? No. No, I've never been inconvenienced by anything like this ever in my life. Where's Angela? Okay. Thank you for working. Now that and that. Okay, Angela. Blam. She's here. She is here, people. Okay. Alright, back to this story, which was what again? Ah, yes, Northern Gaza cut off. Desperation grows with aid supplies blocked.
Children are paying the heaviest price. Due to the Israeli policy of starvation, children are suffering severe malnutrition. Most of the infants and children are hit with brain strokes. We are doing our best to save their lives, place them on medical ventilation. If children survive the Israeli ruthless bombardment, it is very unlikely they would survive due to the starvation.
Children continue to pay a heavy price in this war. This mother describes the desperate situation.
My child fell sick and her condition has been deteriorating. The staff managed to spare her life, but electric power is out most of the time. There's not enough fuel for generators, and the lives of these children here are hanging by a thread. We are living in misery.
Earlier in the week, a United Nations convoy arrived with limited supplies. Getting access to the north of Gaza can only be done with the permission of Israel.
Wait, when did I lie to you? Me? What did I say? I don't even know what you're referring to. I don't even know what you're referring to. I wouldn't do that. Unless it was specifically for the purpose of LARPing, in which case, it's really just in good fun. But I don't think I lied to you about anything serious. Because I definitely don't want to feel like I'm doing that. What am I gonna do with these kids?
Members of the World Health Organization were able to evacuate 2 patients.
We arrived today in Kamal Adwan with one of our emergency medical teams specialized in pre-hospital care and referral medicine to ensure a safe referral of 2 children to South Gaza and then further to a 3rd country for further specialized care.
It's a relief for the parents who have witnessed their children suffering.
Fadi was doing well before the war because he was getting the necessary food and he was taking the necessary milk and medicines. But during the war, his condition deteriorated.
Yep, no kidding. Oh, God. That my streaming software doesn't inconvenience you. Oh, that was a lie. That was a lie, you're right. You're right. I lied. That one was for the purpose of comedy. I forgot all about it, honestly. Thank you for reminding me and keeping me honest, BCat. Can always count on you. Okay. What's next on this list? I mean, and just to segue through these, I'm just gonna at least say this about that, because I feel like I'm a broken record on this topic, and I don't know what else to say. But I'm just gonna keep saying the stuff I've been saying. You know, it's already hard enough for kids that didn't have any sort of health conditions before, right? For kids with, you know, with their parents, right? And whatever else. But you get people in situations where they become orphans, or they already had pre-existing conditions before the war, and things become infinitely more complicated, right? And the more that this goes on, the more complicated that situation becomes for these people, and more dire and devastating its effects are. Broken record. Okay, what's next? I saw that message, by the way, my dogs. Even though it was retracted. It's okay. It's okay. Staying focused. Get the focus. Oh, good. We're on to this video. Israel claims senior Hamas commander Marwan Issa killed in Gaza strike. I guess that means the war's over, everybody. Yay.
Well, returning now to our top story, the Israeli military says it...
By the way, it's not a war. It's both a massacre and a probable genocide. What? Mythology versus minor in history. That was your degree? Okay. By the way, I'm purposely using this language recently, after watching something, which I don't think we're going to be able to watch today, unfortunately, so I'm just going to read from this article. But I actually saw a very interesting video. You may have caught it, or at least part of it. The Left Reckoning, they were streaming today. Unfortunately, at the same time as NCC, so I was kind of going back and forth. But they had an interview with this guy by the name of Benjamin Adams, I think. Fuck, what was his name? I think it's that. And he is something of an academic, but was explaining the textbook definitions of some of the words that have been being used here, and that are often used, and that aren't necessarily described accurately, being wars, which he goes into much depth as that this entire thing can't be described as a war based upon a statistical thing that I was unaware of, according to some sort of standardized system that I was also unaware of the existence of, that I'd never heard of before. I can't even remember the name of it. I think it was had some sort of an Eastern European name to it, and it basically whatever. We'll go into it later, but it was kind of enlightening, honestly, and made me consider my language choice. Because I do think that now that that's been established, essentially, by someone in the press, I think that it would behoove us to correct anybody that uses the word war to call it a massacre, because that is what textbook it is. It literally, we don't even need the ICJ to declare it one. It's just a genocide that we need it to be declared. If you just look at it, anyway, fuck it, I'm just monologuing over here. I'm gonna shut up.
Confirmed that it has killed Marwan Issa, the deputy military commander of Hamas. Let's bring in Al Jazeera's senior political analyst, Marwan Bashar. He joins me now in the studio. Marwan, just how senior was Issa? Where did he sit within the whole Hamas ecosystem?
Well, presumably, I mean, of course, Hamas is not exactly, open. It's not a government in terms of its military wing, but it's said that he's second in command of the military wing of Hamas. Now, if you ask the Israelis, of course, they would like to make him as if he is as high as possible, because then he is more valuable target, and hence it is presumably a greater success for the Israelis. And the Israeli officials, the Israeli generals, have been quite adamant in the past 5 months to underline the idea that they're going to go after Hamas leaders, right?
Yeah.
And to the mind of many observers, if Israel can get to the top echelon of Hamas in Gaza, it could start believing that it is achieving some form of victory, or at least some form of revenge, right? However, what we know from the history of this conflict, and certainly since Hamas's establishment as a political and military group in the late 1990s, in the late 1980s, Israel began assassinating Hamas leaders in the 1990s. Think about it is that every time Israel declared victory by assassinating one Hamas leader, dozens stepped up to take his place. So the idea of declaring victory because one or two or several Hamas leaders were killed has proven to be more of a facade, more of a deception for public consumption than it is an actual achievement. Because as I said, not only dozens have stepped up to take their place whenever a leader is assassinated, but we've seen from the 1990s onward, from the 2002 onwards, is that with every assassinated generation of leaders, new leaders that took on were even more hardcore than the previous generations. So the previous generations, for example, I don't know, they were doctors and architects and engineers and whatever that happened to be radical, resistant leaders. The new leaders, like, for example, Sinwar, right, the top military leader in Gaza, he spent 22 years in an Israeli jail. The man is so hardcore and so hardened, right, in his heart and mind and ideology and so on and so forth, that he's certainly far more apparently competent and far more radical than all his predecessors. So killing these leaders might be claimed to be a tactical or strategic victory, but in the end of the day, Hamas has proven more than capable of producing more and more leaders.
Am I right in thinking in this conflict so far, Marwan Issa is actually the senior-most Hamas figure who has been killed?
Well, between Aruri and Lebanon, right, who's again...
In Gaza?
Yes. But of course, as we all know, that Hamas, is run more as an organization that's quite hierarchical and has quite the command within the hierarchy that trickles down. So whatever the hierarchy is, it doesn't matter what the geography is. And in fact, some of their most hardcore leaders are in fact in that section, right, among the 3 or 4 sections, is the one that is based in the prisons.
Oh, very interesting.
And one of the 3 or 4 main commanders are actually in prisons because they have a prison wing for Hamas.
Marwan, just in terms of assessing what Israel's thinking right now, as you say, they've said very publicly that they plan to destroy the whole of Hamas. For many of them, that means destroying certainly the leadership of Hamas, especially the military leadership. What is your assessment of how that's going so far? I understand that certainly a majority, I believe, of battalion commanders have been taken out. So in terms of the way that Israel is approaching this, in terms of their measures of success, how are they doing?
Well, look, I mean, there's no doubt that after 5 months of bombings, much of it indiscriminate, that some of the collateral damage happened to be Hamas leaders, right? And clearly a lot of them were killed. There's no doubt about that. I'm not sure if it's 2/3, 1/3, 3/4. All of that is just estimates. But I know two things to be a fact that we've known thus far the past 5 months. And that's what really is troubling for the Israelis. One is that no Hamas fighters have surrendered voluntarily to the Israelis. The Israelis picked up all kinds of people, called them Hamas, but there are no Hamas fighters that surrenders. Two, Hamas leaders, none of them have capitulated to Israel in Gaza. And these are the two things that are most troubling for the Israelis. And in fact, when you listen to their experts, they keep going over it again and again. How could these people, meaning the leaders and the militants, be so hardcore that not one has capitulated, not one has surrendered?
A very interesting dynamic.
Yep. Yeah, it just felt like an important video to watch. If you didn't catch all of that, a senior Hamas leader by the name of Marwan Issa has been claimed to be killed by the Israeli forces. You know, I think that, like, Mustafa Barghouti here, I think that's his name at least, said, wait, is that his name? God damn it. I listened to this guy so many times, like, talk so many times, I should know his name by heart. But, you know, they're fighting a ideology. They are fighting people who are essentially going to keep fighting until they are forcibly stopped. And so, you know, I think that Israel needs to reconsider its plans. And we've been saying that they need to reconsider their plans, but I mean, I'm just talking about in terms of their supposed and touted goals, right? And be real about the future, because this cannot continue anymore. The killing of Palestinians is only going to create more Hamas, right? Eventually people, after being starved to death, watching everybody around them get blasted to death, they become radicalized, right? It's literally just, you know, it's an Israeli creation, just by torturing people. So, yeah, I think they need to figure out how to give reparations to these people, give them back their land and their freedom, their ability to govern themselves. And I think that would probably solve the majority of the problems. I'm not saying that's going to be an immediate solution, but anyway, just to go a little bit into what I was discussing before, this is a piece on inkstickmedia.com, which is a journalistic publication here. This piece was from Benjamin S. Case and James A. Sebens. And it's entitled, "What's Happening in Gaza is Not a War, It's a Massacre." The genocide hearings will take years to reach a verdict, but as social scientists, we can assess the violence in Israel and Gaza based on other objective criteria. And the fact is, we've already gone over the ICJ to some a near nauseating degree, and we've established that Israel is probably committing genocide, according to the language used by the ICJ. But since it isn't, quote-unquote, been made definite in the courts, I think it's important that we focus on the language that we're using here to fight back against the current narrative suggesting that it's a war, as it is not. Let me read just a piece of this. On October 7th, 2023, Hamas-led militants breached the border fence surrounding Gaza and attacked southern Israel, leaving 1,139 Israelis and foreigners killed, mostly civilians, and kidnapping some 240 hostages. In response, Israel declared war on Hamas, cutting off food, water, and electricity, dropping thousands of bombs across Gaza, and so on and so forth. In the face of so much death and destruction, the political controversy surrounding the Israel-Palestine issue and the contradictory accounts of fighting in Gaza, it can be difficult to guard against the emotional biases and political distortions that often pervade heightened public discourse around warfare. As the maxim goes, truth is the first casualty of war. As scholars of conflict and political violence, it is our job to seek clear and consistent ways to understand concepts like war, terrorism, and coercion, with sufficient empiricism to avoid being confused or disoriented by the passions of the moment. To that end, we will discuss 3 objective elements of the violence in Israel and Gaza, in service of appropriately defining the conflict: the types of political actors involved in the fighting, the numbers of fatalities, and the dynamics between combatants and civilians. Now he goes on in this piece to dissect all 3 of those different modalities, I guess, right? Different aspects of this definition, right? And essentially boils it down to the number of fatalities proportionally, whether or not Hamas is able to effectively fight back against the IDF. Because if you're not able to actually inflict casualties, it's not a real war. Goes on further, and I would honestly recommend watching it. I really wanted to watch the interview that he did on Left Reckoning, but I don't have permission from either Matt or Dave. Wait, damn, my brain just broke. But yeah, he did. They absolutely had one of the authors on today. I know. I'm 100% aware of that. That's why I'm talking about it. It's what prompted me to bring this up. Yeah, I mean, sure, we can say pretty much to at least, especially to our one another, that it is indeed a genocide. But in the sphere of discourse, in terms of speaking with people who disagree with us, I think the use of the word massacre is apt, as it genuinely defines what's happening. And if you go down the list on what he refers to, even in short, it makes it pretty clear. And it avoids the annoying sort of situation of having to be like, oh, well, of having to come back to people saying, oh, well, it hasn't been declared definite. It was just plausible. And what does plausible mean? Well, yeah, plausible means probably, right? And we know that. But probably isn't definite. And, it could take a long time for the actual powers that be to declare it so, because they have no evidence yet, like physical evidence, because the UN has to actually go in there. I mean, and what's it called? Like, get observers in there and all this other bureaucratic stuff to be able to declare it 100% a genocide. Of course, in our own assessments, we can clearly see, because we're not stupid, what it is we're looking at. Our eyes aren't lying. We can clearly see the starving people. We can see the destroyed landscape. We can see the Israeli officials using genocidal language. There's just so much evidence, right? But fucking hell, I'm not in charge. If I was in charge, I'd say all this video evidence is probably good enough. But I'm not. Okay, next one. This is... oh, right. I almost forgot. I was upset about this footage that we saw earlier that they didn't give any context to because this video from 7 hours ago is entitled 12 People Drown While Trying to Reach Supplies That Were Airdropped onto Gaza Beach. 12 people. This is from Global News. Sorry, chat. I forgot to read. I'm a bad boy. I'm a bad boy. You would hate to be in charge? Yeah. I honestly would hate to be in charge too, probably. Okay, I'm gonna try and read this time. Like, you know. Like I'm supposed to. Okay, 12 people drowned Monday while trying to reach aid dropped by plane off at a Gaza beach, according to Palestinian health authorities. It is the latest in a string of incidents during which aid deliveries in the crowded Palestinian enclave. What happened was that they came to get aid. We were waiting for the aid by the oasis, and we were surprised to see a plane coming and throwing the aid into the sea. When it did, people swam into the sea to bring the aid back. There were martyrs in the sea. 3 martyrs approximately. No one was looking for them. In terms of the aid, one of the biggest mistakes is that they are thrown in dangerous places like the sea because it leads to drowning. Yeah, no kidding. This is the thing about this, which just disgusts me, right? You throw a bunch of aid into the fucking ocean for a bunch of people who haven't eaten for days, weeks, and you expect them to be able to swim and drag that through the ocean? Or, well, not the ocean, the sea, right? It's a, which one is this? Is the Mediterranean Sea? I think it's that side, right? Fucking hell. Either way, to actually swim and effectively transport aid through the water requires a ton of fucking strength and energy, which these people don't have. So of course, some people are going to become exhausted, some people are going to get caught underneath it and drown and die. It fucking incenses me to no end that they would expect people who are starving to death to be able to bring aid back from the sea to the land with no boats or anything else, just by swimming.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
رايح يجيب الكابوري، وهذه مشكلتها سهله جدا. بيقدروا يعملوها عن طريق المعابر اللي يصل على الشعب الغلبان، وبيقدروا يعملوها عن طريق يكثفوا الرمي.
Okay, I think you get the point, and my voice is a little bit rough today, so reading off all of this stuff is kind of taking its toll on me right now. I still got a couple more videos to watch. This one's from 5 hours ago. UN expert accuses Israel of genocide in Gaza.
The title of the report says it all: Anatomy of a Genocide. 4 words that sum up the actions of Israeli soldiers, highlighted in findings by the UN Special Rapporteur on occupied Palestinian territories.
Israeli soldiers have published footage boasting about their killing of families, mothers, children, the bombing of homes, mosques and schools. Self-incriminating videos show them sadistically mocking and humiliating their Palestinian victims, not only by violating their physical integrity and right to life, but also their dignity.
Line by line, the 25-page report reaches a clear conclusion. Israel is in violation of the UN Genocide Convention.
I just realized we're going to go back, but watch the citations. The citations page is basically just filled with hyperlinks. Like, the bottom halves of all these pages are just hyperlinks to tragedies.
Line by line, the 25-page report reaches a clear conclusion. Israel is in violation of the UN Genocide Convention.
Mass disappearance and arbitrary detentions, widespread and systematic torture and inhumane treatment add to the experience of endless death and loss. Desperate people had to search through rubble with their bare hands. Many have been unable to bury and grieve loved ones.
The report offers 7 recommendations, among them an immediate arms embargo on Israel. While the briefing in Geneva centered on Israel's acts of genocide, here in New York, the Security Council heard from Tor Venesland, the UN's special coordinator for the Middle East peace process. He briefed the Council about Israel's continued expansion of illegal settlements in the last few months.
Israeli authorities demolished, seized and forced people to demolish 300 structures, displacing 314 people, including 137 children.
France condemned Israel's announcement last week that it seized 800 hectares in the West Bank.
Israeli settlement building is continuing and even accelerating in the West Bank. France condemns this policy, which is contrary to international law. It will never recognize the illegal annexation of territories, nor the legalization of outposts. The Israeli decision on 22nd of March confiscating 800 hectares of land in the West Bank is unacceptable. This is the largest confiscation of land by Israel in the occupied Palestinian territories since Oslo Accords.
Okay. Well, it's good to see people in the UN continuing to fight against this, even though the US has not been very helpful. At the very, very, very least, it's all going on the record. Okay. Well. Oh, I do have one more. Then we have a fun video. Yay, fun. Not yet, though. Not yet. First, one last one, which I noticed while I was on break. This is from literally an hour ago during the stream. Got 100 views. Associated Press. Israelis who fled kibbutzim after Hamas attack must decide whether or not to go back. I would say no.
Rising smoke and artillery fire make clear that Nahal Oz, a kibbutz bordering the Gaza Strip, is on the front line of a war zone. On October 7th, Hamas killed 1,200 people in an early morning assault. It triggered a massive Israeli counteroffensive that has killed more than 30,000 people in Gaza.
Not a counteroffensive, a massacre.
Those who evacuated the kibbutz after Hamas killed 15 and kidnapped 7 of its residents are now wrestling with whether, how, and when to go back.
Personally, when I think about the future of Nahal Oz and the future of the people of Nahal Oz, I imagine that we come back home and we feel safe and we start rebuilding our community.
Oh my god. It's crazy. It is crazy. I don't understand what is going through these people's minds. That they want to come back and resettle in a place that You know? The fact is this whole Swiss cheese of settlements that have been created, it's just, I feel like it just continues to contribute to the situation rather than make it better. And by contribute, I mean negatively.
Yeah. He used to be the most beautiful room in the house because we spent a lot of money here. During these days that I come and work in the kibbutz, I would be more than happy to spend my days here, but it's not really nice to sleep in the house in such condition.
We are staying in this place quite safely, and as I said, it's a golden cage, but it's a cage.
89
Look, they're just playing bocce. Just enjoying their lives, no big deal.
Old Yankala Cohen and other kibbutz elders have now moved close to Tel Aviv until it's safe enough to return to Nahal Oz.
Nahal Oz will not be the same as we before the 7th. Something will be changed.
Cohen was one of Nahal Oz's founders and first residents.
Don Lemon is a GDI now. What is a GDI? I don't know what that acronym means.
This government doesn't respect our sacrifices, our staying on the border for so many years, giving up our life actually.
Okay, that's good enough for me. Just thought it was interesting to see how Israelis were considering their next steps as to whether or not they go back to this this kibbutz here, directly outside of the walls of Gaza, looking in on a genocide. Because it seems weird to me to live on that like hill, looking in on people being massacred day in, day out, being starved, and even having to be reminded of it by that. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're protesting. They're playing bocce and taking interviews about how they really miss the kibbutz, you know? Anyway, got one last video for you. But this one's for fun. Streamlord's tired on Doom. Let's have some funny. This is... I don't know what's up with me and like Fred Armisen stuff. And like Carrie Brownstein. Portlandia in general. But it's a Portlandia clip called... well, let's just watch it. Fuck it.
This morning, just before 8:40 a.m., police responded to a distress call at 101 Northeast 2nd Street. Officers entered the apartment and found the body of a man in his mid-40s with stab wounds to his chest and neck.
The air is humid in Portland, Oregon. There's an inescapable closeness that feels almost oppressive.
I close my eyes and try to imagine growing up in a place like this, living with the feeling that I'll never be able to leave.
Hicks, you want me to get rid of these guys? This is a closed briefing. There's no press.
No, they're good. We had the option between body cameras and podcasters. I went with the podcasters. My kids love them.
I'm Darren Blum.
And I'm Gina Blue.
And this is Forgotten America, Rural Footprints.
Good little tune right there.
It's only been 3 hours since the body was discovered, but already this case is being badly bungled.
It's important to remember that many of these cops are poor, uneducated, and bad at their jobs. There's an old saying in this part of the country, and it goes like this. I can't read. Sheriff Hicks was visibly upset. You would be too if you had a dead homosexual on your hands.
Nobody said anything about the victim being gay.
Well, did he wear women's clothing?
No.
Did he collect old padlocks?
No.
Did he bury treasure?
Did he talk like voice?
I'm pretty sure that he didn't.
And it was the first clue we had that the story we were telling was actually interesting.
You wait until the sentence is done before you start playing music. Sir, can you make your phone ring?
You want me to call my phone?
Yeah.
There you go.
Phones are ringing, but no one was answering. Could it be that we were the only ones interested in solving the case?
This is enough. You guys...
Support for Forgotten America Rural Footprints comes from Blue Apron. Blue Apron delivers farm fresh and perfectly portioned ingredients and step-by-step recipes so you can make incredible meals at home. Go to blueapron.com to find out more. His eyes look haggard and wrinkled. They look like paper bags that have been crinkled up and thrown down on the ground. And people stepped on them.
Hicks. We found some old spoons and painted dolls at the crime scene. It's obviously these two who put it there.
You guys know that tampering with an investigation is very illegal, right? What is this?
Well, as a matter of fact, is there any room in the DNA fridge?
I still like that song.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen to me. You know, wind up in a jail for just reporting on things. Okay. What's this? Did we see the TYT interview with who? With who? I don't know what you're talking about. Wait, are you talking about Don Lemon still? A gosh darn independent. Oh. That's what GDI means. I did not see the interview. Yeah, you got paid $24 million. That's a lot of money. Well, folks, it's been good having you. Hope you enjoyed our little journey into the darkness. I'm not sure what it is that was solved today, but I do feel like I know a little bit more. Hopefully you do too. Well, that's it for me, Streamlord. Till I see you next. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Well, you know I can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Gabby, Aaron W., and Gothogs. All three of them made the correct decision in life and became even more galactic. you can too for just a few dollars a month, where all sorts of galactic benefits await. Don't forget that.